Hi, everybody. So my name's Patrick. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, you can do so at @snacks, or you can get to the website where there will be links to everything that you heard about here today, the business itself, different projects that may come up, and also shameless self-plug. I am also co-hosting Tech Huddle with Kelvin, and there is also an episode about this. So if you want to hear another 2 hours of us talking about 23 Shout and basically just having a lot of back and forth, you can do that at techhuddle.show. Awesome. So I'm doing a talk today. Tech Huddle. I'm doing a talk today about the lessons I learned from building a startup from a hobby app. So this is an app that I had on the side. It was making some money. And then I actually turned that into like a full VC funded, big sort of deal, flying around, having a lot of fun, pretending that I was like, Sam Altman, but really I'm poor. Sort of journey and sort of what that learned from me. What I'm hoping you can get away from this is the 7 big learnings that I learned from this. I promise these aren't going to be things that you'll just find in a book, which is just like, have a good idea or something like that. These are things that really stood out to me from blowing $200,000 of investment and then $100,000 of my own money, which is a pretty difficult lessons to learn. And hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. So if you want to go into a startup or do something similar, you don't have to also waste a crap ton of money in order to learn how these things sort of don't work, is a good way to put it. Cool. So you might be wondering, what is 23 Shout? Let's see if I can remember the elevator pitch. 23 Shout is essentially a business phone system. It allows you and your team to make and receive calls from their own devices using your business number. So you might be wondering, my phone can already make and receive phone calls. Why would I pay $90 a seat in order to have to do that for my business as well? That's a really good question, and one that we also got asked a lot. So to give you a good example, I'll tell you about one of our clients. One of the big ones was Explorate. Anyone know Explorate? Yeah, kinda.
I think so.
Yeah, Kelvin knows. I'm not surprised if you don't know. They're pretty niche. They're a shipping and logistics company. To give you an example about them, if you have something that you need to move from Shanghai to New York, or from Brisbane to Melbourne, or from Auckland to, Nigeria, you can go onto their website, say what your cargo is, how big it is, and where you need it to be, and where it is now. And they'll present you with a list of options, and they'll say, okay, you can get your cargo there by sea using these ships, by plane using these flights, or by truck if it's relevant. And so they'll also give you like the cheapest prices, and you can book it, etc. This is pretty expensive. They charge at minimum $200,000 to actually do this for you. So as you might wonder, it's a pretty bouquet sort of service, and they're doing pretty well for themselves. But if you're moving something around the planet and it just costs you $0.2 million, you sort of want to be able to talk to somebody if your cargo gets stuck somewhere, right? So you get a dedicated account manager. You can say, why has my cargo been in Brisbane for the past 3 days? Or why is my crate full of rubber duckies stuck in Shanghai? What's going on? So you can call up their number, and the way they operated before they had 23 Shout was they had a table, there was 13 people sitting around it, and they would simply pick up the mobile phone and say, welcome to Explorate, who do you want to talk to? And they would say, oh, my account manager's Kelvin. And they would just pass the phone to Kelvin. This is pretty limited, as you might have guessed, so they can't do more than one call at the same time. So that's pretty bad. You just paid 200 grand and you call the number and you get a busy signal. It also meant that once COVID happened and work from home happened, which was like sort of at the start of when we did this, no one could work from home, or they just had to like forward the number to their personal numbers, stuff like that. And it also meant that if you call out of hours, you just get like the endless ringing, right? And this is obviously a multi-time zone business, so there shouldn't have been an out of hours. So once they were on 23 Shout, they would call the business number, they would get the very professional, welcome to Explorate, please wait while you're connected. And they would like look up your number. 23 Shout would look up your number in its list of contacts and then automatically forward you to the right person. So Kelvin's phone would ring if he was your account manager. My phone would ring if Kelvin is busy, and I would have a message that says, Kelvin is the account manager, currently busy, or rejected call, or away, or offline, or something like that. So you can already see how this is a lot more scalable for a business like theirs than something just like a mobile phone that goes flat on the middle of the table and they might not have realized it. So I'm going to skip ahead and tell you about something. There's a bit of a spoiler alert just to get it out of the way. It did fail. I don't want you guys thinking I'm like secretly a millionaire or something like that. It's not true. I'm really poor. If you guys have money to get home, I'll take it. I just want to prime you for that sort of thing. I also want to say this is definitely a please speak. If you have something to add, if you have any relevant experience or any questions, just feel free to interrupt like midway through. Don't even wait for question time at the end. Let's just like make it a back and forth. That'd be really awesome. But also note, as some of you have already figured out from talking to me, my hearing's really bad. So Kelvin may have to repeat whatever you say to me, like directly into my ear. Cool. Awesome.
You spoiled your spoiler on that by saying you lost $300,000.
It's actually really easy to spend money. You know, it's like people. It's like if I had $1 billion, I don't even know what I'd buy. I'd buy like the $200,000 car and a yacht. And I have all this money. Like, no, it's really easy to spend money like it's nothing, especially in a business. Yeah, especially if you're on 11 Labs. So where do ideas come from? And this is the funny one, right? Because a lot of people say, I want to start a startup, or I really want that life or something, but I don't know what I want to do. I don't have any good ideas. Or maybe my idea is like mittens for cats on Etsy or something like that. Maybe it's $1 billion business. I don't think it is. But this is actually the easiest one to answer. And I'll tell you how we came up with 23 Shouts idea. So all the way back in 2016, I was working in an outbound call center as the CTO at the age of 19 or something like that, something ridiculous. And as their CTO, it was my job to go down to Vodafone once a week and buy at least 5 new SIM cards, because we had 21 outbound agents all on mobile phones, and Vodafone would figure out what we're doing and shut down our SIM cards. So it was my job to go and get more. And I would come back, and this is like an ongoing problem for us. We went from mobile phones to desk phones. We had somebody like literally bolt cutter our outbound telephone lines because they were sick of it. One of the other guys in the other offices next to us. Then we went to like a VoIP system, which was really crappy and like inconsistent. Whereas what we really just wanted was the ability for them to have their script in front of them, their call script, maybe automatically load in the next call, and a way to actually make that outbound call. That's it. That sounds super simple. Didn't really exist back then. Wasn't the solution for it. But there was this thing called Twilio, which was really basic, and this new thing called React with, you know, class components and crap like that. So I went to my boss and I said, look, I just booked 2 weeks vacation. If I come back and if I build something that can do this, will we like talk about buying it as like a product? And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Didn't believe I could do it. So I went to New York and I'm sitting in Central Park having a great time on my laptop, you know, not doing anything in New York, just programming. And program is vacation. It's actually a lot of fun. And I came back and I had this very basic system, which did exactly what we talked about. It would load in the contacts. It would like automatically populate their name. So they would see their script. Hi, Kelvin, it's Patrick calling. I see that you're a painter in Runaway Bay. That's like gold. Nothing else could do that at the time. And so I had my first client with 21 people. We were making $3,000 revenue a month. And that was just like side income, I guess, because I was stupid and didn't really pursue it. If I'd pursued it at that time, we would have been the first entry into the market. It would have been a totally different story. So after that, I decided to go, oh, that's my first key takeaway, which is that good startup ideas come from real pain points in everyday life. It's really not hard to come up with a good startup idea. And in fact, you would already have these. There's something at work or there's something in your daily life which is just like, oh God, I got to do that again. Or it's just something that constantly annoys the team and you always bring up with each other. It's just that little annoying thing. It's like, why is there no solution for this? Because these are the things that people actually pay to get rid of out of their life, right? For us, we just paid for something that could load up the next call, show a script and make the call. More than happy to pay for that sort of thing. For Kelvin and for me as well, I really love the language learning thing because I'm using Duolingo and I have no one to talk to. And it really pisses me off that I actually don't know any Japanese people to practice my Japanese, right? This is the small pain points that people actually go for. Another one I heard recently, for example, was someone built an app that tells you when the things that you actually always buy from Coles are on sale so that you know to actually go and get them. Otherwise, you like miss out on that 2-for-1 discount you can possibly get on like your laundry detergent. But those are the good startup ideas. So after leaving the call center, I went to work for a company called Clipchamp. And Clipchamp is awesome. They do an online video editor. They've since been acquired by Microsoft. You may have heard of them. If you use Windows, you'll get the nags to use Clipchamp. But there was sort of something always bothering me that, hey, there's this thing that's in my, like, running in my cloud environment that's making $3,000 a month. It's got 21 people, like, grown to 28 or something like that. And I'm not pursuing it. That's like a viable business. And then eventually some people called me from the old call center and said, look, we've quit and we've gone to start our own thing. But can we buy that thing off you as well? Because there is nothing else out there. And we checked. There's nothing like it out there. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure, come on board. And so there was an extra like 5, 10 people, an extra $2,000 or $3,000 a month. And it's like little nagging voice in my head that is like, what the fuck are you doing? Can I swear, Anki? Is that? Yeah, cool. That's like, what are you doing? Like, how many opportunities do you get where you have something that's like bringing in revenue, is actively growing? You don't have to operate any of it. It's just running by itself. Like, why are you not pursuing this as like a full-time job? Why are you not pushing this as like a full-time thing? And it just like, it kept nagging me, like, you have to go full-time on this eventually. You have to go full-time on this eventually. And so I made the really good decision for the business, the best decision for the business I'd ever made, which is to quit my good job, live off my home loan for a little while, which I've been saving for a long time. I just saved enough for a house deposit. And so I booked a meeting with HR. HR meeting, like if I book a video meeting with any one of you or any one of my colleagues, totally fine. If I start like a huddle call with you, no problem. Just like pick it up and listen to it. But there is no situation on earth where you schedule a meeting with HR or HR schedules a meeting with you where you're both not going into that meeting wondering what the fuck is about to happen, like really nervous. And so she picked up the call and I could see her face. It's like this like terrified sort of look. I'm like, I'm not going to lie to you. This is exactly what you think it is. I have to quit. And I was just like, I have to go and work on this thing. And so then I was full-time from home. I had only my cash reserves, no income coming in. I was supporting my partner full-time through university. I was supporting myself full-time while investing back into the business and trying to like adjust to the lifestyle of, you know, just eating beans and noodles every single night from minimal expenses. But I got a hell of a lot done on the business. That thing grew really, really hard in terms of what the product was actually capable of doing. A lot of code issues that had happened, been there for a long time, were suddenly solved. What I should have been doing from the start, from the very second that I quit, was doing marketing and sales. And I did. I was reaching out to people. I was reaching out to other people and trying to sell the product. But there's this strange thing that happens, I think, with everybody, that when you're outside your comfort zone and things aren't really working the way that you'd hope they worked. So for me, that's doing sales. That's doing like cold calling hundreds of people a day and trying to sell them a phone system and just being told no, 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 no. That you fall back into what you're good at. And so I'm a computer engineer, and this is like a well-known thing among startups as well, is that when engineers try sales and it doesn't work, they just go back and tweak their engineering code and just somehow try to engineer their way to a profit. You know, they'll have like a thing in their mind that says, if I just get SEO good enough, the customers will come. They won't. The phrase like build it and they will come, they will not. You know, the internet's like this huge void, and they will not find your business and they will not buy your business. The only way you can actually generate that profit and to get more customers is to be calling people, and calling people, getting rejected constantly by other people, and then learning what it is that actually makes people buy your product. And that's my takeaway number 2, which is that you really cannot engineer your way to a profit under any circumstances. You shouldn't even be building a product until you've actually sold it to somebody. And me and Kelvin have heard numerous examples of people who've done this successfully. One of the best examples I ever heard was a local Brisbane fellow who made a note-taking app for Zoom. I think it was actually the first AI note-taking app for Zoom that was out there.
AI.
Yeah, the way it worked is he put out an email on Twitter, an email address on Twitter, and just said, invite this email address to your Zoom call, and it will automatically take notes for you, and then send you a summary afterwards. And so people were inviting the email into their Zoom calls, and they would receive a beautiful AI summary with action tasks that need to be done by each individual afterwards. He did this by sitting in a call booth, a soundproof call booth, with his headphones on, personally joining every single one of those meetings with his laptop and just typing up the summaries and notes himself. And eventually his calendar got so busy and so booked that he was just like, okay, that's enough validation. Stopped it, went and got investment, and hired a programming team to actually make the product for real. That is building a startup. He sold the hell out of that thing without touching a line of code. And actually, we talked to him, and he said that his biggest regret is actually building the product for real. He ended up selling the business for about $7 million, by the way, and he lives up in Brisbane. But he said that if I had just hired outsourced workers over the internet to do the exact same thing that I did, I'm pretty sure I could have sold it for over 20 million at least. So can't engineer your way to a profit. There is one caveat to that, which I will mention because some people will be thinking it, unless you're 10 times better than what's already out there. 10 times better is really hard to sort of quantify. The only example I actually have of this is OpenAI's ChatGPT. That is 10 times better than what it came before it. There is nothing else I can, and the iPhone. There's nothing else I can possibly think of that actually reaches that level of quantification of being better than what preceded it. And so, spoiler alert, and I'm going to say it about myself too, my product was not 10 times better than what was out there already. It had more features, it was more polished, it was way cheaper, it was more convenient. It wasn't 10 times better. If you try and sell it to somebody on that basis, they will say, my current one's the same cost, or the cost of migration is going to be too high. Like, why would I get my entire sales team to move over to a new system like yours just because the UI or UX is better? It doesn't make business sense for them to do that. They'll be happy to keep on going the way they're going, even if it's slightly more expensive. And this is the same case often with products that you guys are going to build as well. They are not 10 times better than what's already out there. They might be 2 times better, 3 times better, but to get up to 10, that's a hell of a lot better. And the fact is that we're not Steve Jobs bringing out the iPhone at exactly the right time. And we're not OpenAI bringing out ChatGPT at exactly the right time. We're just not. So panic. It had been about 8 months. All my money was gone. My house deposit had gone away. At this point, I'm sort of worrying. Despite my partner still being next to me every day and saying, like, what the flip are you doing? You should be on the phone calling people and selling this thing. And it's pretty hard after you get rejected a lot to do that sort of stuff again. And so I'd lean into, like, okay, I'll send in like 5 LinkedIn outreach things today. You know, that's what I'll do, and I'll get that done. And I'll just go straight back to engineering and making the product way better. Some of the code in that project was incredible because I had like 8 months to just sit there and tweak it and not really do anything else. But it was really awesome. I was out of cash. And some of you may have been there. Some of you haven't. I hope you never have. But it's a horrible feeling at night when you're laying awake in bed and you have no idea how you're going to pay rent next month. Like, even to get a job in time and to build up enough money to actually get back to paying my bills, it wasn't possible. So what do you do if you're running a startup and you're out of cash and you need money? Anybody? So you go to VCs, right? VCs are awesome. They sort of like have a bit of a meme rep. There are a lot of meme VCs out there. You'll hear about them, like the ones, these are the sorts of guys who, they're chasing crypto. And then next month, oh, AI is the new hot thing. Oh, now Web 2.0, Web 3.0. And then they try to make it Web 5.0 and they completely skip 4. They exist out there. You don't want their money. VCs are really fantastic in the right circumstances. So I was actually very lucky. I don't know if he wants to be name dropped, so I won't drop his name. But I was reaching out to a friend just to be like, dude, like, what the hell do I do? I can't pay rent. What the hell am I going to do? And he basically just said, I'm actually on the judging panel for this new VC down in Melbourne. You should definitely bring this in front of us because you've already got a product and you've already got customers. Like, why are you not talking to VCs already? I'm like, oh, okay, true. Why didn't I consider this as a potential out? And so I went down there. I pitched the product and the company to them, and they were just basically like, yeah, cool. You've got everything. You've got validation. You've got a product that's ready to go. You've obviously thought about the position in the market a lot. There's a lot I hadn't done about running a startup, like corporate governance, the boring stuff, financial stuff, very, very boring. But essentially, they decided to invest, and my financial situation was cleared up a little bit, which was awesome. If you are going to go talk to a VC, it's important to talk to the appropriate VC. There are VCs you want to talk to and VCs you don't want to talk to as an early stage company. For example, if I had gone in front of EVP and tried to pitch to them, Equity Venture Partners, their minimum investments are $2 to $20 million. And they would have just completely eaten me alive for not knowing some of the hard-hitting financial questions around the business. They were not the sort of people I wanted to talk to as an early stage. I haven't actually run a business technically before, except like my ADM. So you want to go to somebody who actually has an accelerator program, if they can. You want to go to somebody who is used to taking early stage investments, and preferably they have a history of taking successful early stage investments and then getting them investment down the next part of the path. So Series A investment, Series B investment. And if they will also be part of that investment or lead the investment, that's even better. So if you get multiple people investing, they'll contribute more money, etc. My investors at the time were Scalata Ventures. You can definitely look them up. They still do this. They're very good investors. I recommend talking to them. They don't do the cohort group that I was part of anymore. So for me, they took in 30 companies with the expectation that only 2 would live, which is very normal. But they do individual investments into companies, and they still put you through that corporate governance program. But just remember, if you ever feel like you're talking to somebody and you feel like you're in over your head with what they're saying, so if they're just blabbering about something and some weird deal that you just don't understand, you shouldn't take it. Like, this is the old saying, if it feels wrong, it probably is wrong, and just to trust your gut. The exact same thing is true with VCs. Don't put yourself into a situation which you're going to regret down the line with a VC who's going to be angry if you lose their money and don't return it. You want somebody who's used to taking on early stage companies like you, and if you lose their money, they're just like, yeah, whatever, don't care. That's sort of what happens, right? Cool. So if you are interested, the deal was for $200,000. They took 10% of the equity. Straight swap, straight at the beginning. Very, very simple. No like weird safe deals or anything like that. It was just a nice, easily understandable. And if you think about my position as somebody who only had like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month revenue, 200,000 grand for 10% is pretty damn good. Actually, that's a damn good deal, especially when it came with the accelerator program. But don't go for money unless you know how you're going to spend it, right? A VC is going to ask you, hey, if we give you this $1 million, if we give you $200,000, what are you going to do with it? And if your answer is, well, $200,000, programmers are pretty expensive. I'll put $100,000 into that. I'll put $50,000 into a salesperson, and they'll start paying for themselves. And we'll have another $50,000 in reserve. What you just told me is you have no idea what you're going to do with that money. You need to be specific about this sort of thing. How long does it take for the salesperson to actually ramp up to efficiency where they can pay themselves? What's your data behind that? Who are they actually selling to in the market? Who are they reaching out to? What's your ideal customer profile? What is the cost per acquisition of your leads? Where do your leads even come from? Who are they even talking to? If you can't answer these specific questions going into a VC, it's unlikely they're going to be able to give you enough money, or even give you money at all, that you're coming to ask for. So these are questions that you should have sorted out yourself by trying to build and sell your product. And it was questions, thankfully, I was able to blunder my way through enough to get them to give me money. But you will waste it if you don't know exactly down to the penny what you're going to be doing with it. But if you can still show, if you run out and you can still show that upwards trajectory and say, look, obviously there was something to my plan, they will likely give you more. So they say, okay, well, we understand now that your break-even point's further down the line. But things were looking up. So as part of Scalata Ventures, we did have our corporate governance under check now. Actually very important as a startup. We had our position in the market sort of figured out. This is who we're going to try and sell to. This is our sales process. This is our repeatable sales engine they always talk about. We'd hired 2 contractors in the Ukraine to build our mobile app as well. We would finally get the mobile app, which was constantly being asked for and will constantly be rejected for not having. It was in Flutter, Kelvin's idea. And we'd also gotten a full-time programmer. So as the founder of the company, I was stepping back and now focusing on sales and the whole company as itself. That's called founder-led sales. It's much preferred when you go into a VC that the founder actually does the sales themselves. And we'd done all the basics. We'd done all the stupid stuff I'd skipped. And this is basic stuff like business model canvassing. This is basic stuff like coming up with the personas of your customers. So I can say like 3 people are reliably going to buy our product. This is sort of like the software they like using. This is how they dress. This is their general age. This is what they look like. These are the companies that we have to actually show that, you know, these are the people that they're actually like. So if I start selling to somebody, I can say, you're like Kelvin. So I can go straight to my sales script for Kelvin, which is like a techie sort of nerdy guy, and just completely ignore the sort of entrepreneurial type people and the sort of sales script that I would feed them. This is really good stuff for you to do to your idea too. It's never too early to do this, and it's not too late either. If you think that your business is way post about this sort of stage, you will gain a lot just by going back to do this. It may challenge your own assumptions about the business. And this is how we make our money. These are the threats in the marketplace. This is the value adds we can offer to customers. This is how we make customers feel good, right? These are the emotions these customers are going to feel. It's never too late to do this. And I still think it's never too late to do validation as well on your own business, no matter how far down the line it is. We've seen people who come to us, and it still freaks me out a little bit when founders have gone like full to the wall on building their startup. And I say, where's your validation? And they say, I don't really need validation for this idea, do I? Like it's pre-validated building this sort of thing. And what they're building is like some super socially complex, super materially complex sort of business. And I was like, ooh, you mean you don't have a single customer? And you've got like, you spent your entire self-wealth on this and you haven't even like, now you're going to go and ask for money? Like you didn't validate this at all? I'm like, no, it's post-validation. It's never too late to do these basics. Not only will it help you challenge your own perceptions of your business and solidify what actually your business is, but it's good material that you can give to other people, either new employees, new people who are going to work with you, to get them up to speed on exactly where your business is, what you guys do, and how you see the business. Nothing's worse than hiring somebody who comes into your business and just says, well, I know we make mittens for cats right now, but I think it'd actually make more sense to make mittens for dogs. It's like, no, we tried that. Dogs just tear them off. Like, no, but we should try it again. And it's like, oh my God, you're the wrong freaking hire, right? So that's definitely something I recommend doing. But we finally got, more interestingly, our first big deal lead. So we had our repeatable sales engine. We were slowly getting small businesses on. It was really cool, but we got a big lead come through, which was enterprise level. Normally we went B2B, not B2E. So very quick explanation if you haven't heard those terms before. B2C is business to customer. So this is people like Netflix selling directly to consumers like us. B2B is business to business. So this is people like Google selling Google Cloud to other businesses. And then B2E is businesses who've reached enterprise level. So this is like universities, IBM, Oracle, really large things, governments. They count as enterprises. So if you sell something to an enterprise, you are B2E. And you're probably going to be very rich, as you're about to find out. So we got our first B2E lead. There's some other differences about why you might prefer enterprise sales. And it's actually quite interesting. So small customers, normal businesses are going to do what's called feature packing. You may have heard this before, where people just come to you and say, oh yeah, you sell a phone system, but does it do recording? I want recording. I'm like, yeah, it does recording. Does it do analytics? I want to be able to see the analytics of my agents. I'm like, yeah, it does analytics, sure. Oh, but we also need those analytics to be sent weekly in like an email report. Do you do that? They're like, no, we don't do that. I'm like, oh, well, we need that. They've never used it once in their life, and they'll never actually use it once they sign up for your product, but they'll say this sort of, I need this feature to sign up. They're also going to generate much higher support volumes. Normal businesses are going to be really freaking annoying, and they will harass you constantly. If the product doesn't work right once, even if it's their own internet connection, it's your fault. Never forget that. And they want the maximum value for a minimal expense. So we were $90 per seat. So if you had a team of 5 people, it was just under $500. That's too much. $90? Oh, but I pay $40 for a SIM card plan from Optus. I'm like, yeah, but Optus can't do all this other stuff, can they? Like, you're still generating like $5,000 revenue off this one agent alone. It still makes a lot of financial sense. Like, no, $90 is too much. How about I offer you 25? Right? That's the sort of people you're going to be dealing with. So they're very, very annoying, but they're very useful. Enterprise customers, the way it works generally is that you have a champion inside their organization. That's what they like to call it. That just means it's one person who's been given a very specific job that needs solving. So in our case, and I won't name the company because it's still around, but they were told that they need to record the phone calls of their customers to their customers. That sounds really suspicious. It was actually to be compliant with government regulation. There's new government regulation that they had to be saying certain things on the calls to their customers. If you're going to be associated with them, it's your job to police them. So they needed all of those customer calls to be recorded, and then they needed to go in there periodically, probably never, like, when they finally get audited, and just double check that these people were actually saying, according to Australian legislation, you have the right to dispute this within 14 days or something like that. That's the only thing he had to solve. And he found us through LinkedIn. So I was just posting away on LinkedIn once a day. You got to do your thing running a startup. Hey, come out and check our startup. It's really cool. And the guy just happened to be scrolling down and thought, phone system, let's book a call with him. And my call with him it went exactly like this. It was essentially just, hey, how are you? I'm like, hey, how are you? What's going on, man? How you been? Yeah, good. So you can record calls? I was like, yeah, we can record calls. Yeah. And I can pull up those recordings at any time? It's like, yeah, you can pull up those recordings anytime you want, straight from this. I was like, tell you what, I'll show you a demo. What's your phone number? And I called him on my phone using the 23 Shout app. And then I was like, check this out. And I pulled up the web page, went into his call log activity, and just played the recording. It's like, yeah, cool. So we need to do 300,000 seats by the end of the year. Can you do that? And in my head, I was just like, are you fucking serious? I just quickly do the math on the calculator. This deal was $12 million annually. $11 million of which would have been pure profit. Like just nothing, just coming straight through. Oh, and the last thing I was going to say is that they have longer sales cycles. So these deals, as you'll see, generally take about 5 months to work out on average, I think. But they're worth a hell of a lot more money. So we were so close. We'd gotten through their purchasing committee, which means there was a lot of people with fancy job titles who didn't really talk, and they just listened to us, and then they gave us a tick of approval and felt important. We'd agreed to a trial rollout worth $3,000 in the first month, and then $30,000 by month 3. We would have been well into the profitable green by month 3. We'd been no problem. The final contract value was worth $12 million annually after the full rollout, and the contracts were redlined and exchanged, which means the lawyers had gone back and agreed. We were able to use their logo, we were able to use their name. We would have been like on the website, the use case story. They couldn't have done anything about it. Even if they decided not to use our product anymore, we could have kept it there and they couldn't do anything. So they said, send us through the signed contract and we'll countersign today by 1 p.m. Oh, by the way, there was actually clauses they had to meet minimum spends by certain tiers in each month unless we failed in some way. So even if they decided by month 2 they didn't like this thing anymore, they were still on the line to pay us up to 20 to 30 grand or something like that. So it would have been fine. They said, send the signed contract through by 1 p.m. and we'll countersign it today. So I went down to Officeworks with my partner. We printed out the contract very perfectly. I signed the signature page. I thought, they deserve a better signature than that. And I printed out the signature page again and signed it again until it was perfect. We rescanned it all through and we sent it off to them in a PDF. So 1 p.m. rolls around. 2 p.m. rolls around. It's okay, they're in New South Wales. It could just be a time zone difference. 3 p.m. rolls around. Now I'm just like, okay, what the flip is going on here? This is not good news. And I get a phone call. And it's like, hey, Patrick, I'm really sorry I have to tell you this, but because of the Ukrainian war, there's been a rising cost of materials around batteries, which is where we operate. Our investors are spooked, and they've decided to pull the funding. I've lost my job. My entire department has been laid off, and my boss, who's supposed to be signing this, no longer works here. Damn! I was like, are you serious? There's a saying that we used in the Scalata cohort when crap like this happened in business, which it does all the time. That is so startup. Like, that's going to be a good story. That's so startup. You just completely ruined my business, but it's a good story, right?
I thought the same was going to be, I hate Putin.
Sorry?
I hate Putin. I thought it was.
Oh, yeah. I was saying, I was like, I can't believe it. Didn't Putin think about me before he did this? But here's the other problem is that we were basically neglecting our smaller customers that I was talking about during this cycle because it was taking so long to get everything together for the enterprise. And we would call them back trying to rescue these sales deals, and they'd just say, look, we haven't heard from you for like a month. I thought you didn't want to sell to us. Like, why is it so hard to buy your product? And the truth is, I only had like me and one other guy, and we were pretty hands on deck trying to secure this $12 million deal. So it's sort of like, it's stupid, but it's not a big deal. It's just another lead. We should have only invested a certain percentage of our time trying to close this massively profitable thing and spent the rest of our time trying to close the smaller customers just as hard. Not only did it show non-linear quarter, which means our revenues basically went like back up again like that, which is highly suspicious in a board meeting. But we basically put all our eggs in one basket. And I still can't believe I did this because it's sort of like the dumbest decision to make. But at the same time, like, someone's offering you 12 mil, some other guys are offering you like $800 a month. Which one are you going to focus on? Right? It's hard, but you really got to treat them both equally with equal respect. But the other big problem was that the market was rapidly changing. So a lot had happened in this time. As I said, when I first wrote this thing way back in 2016, I really don't think there was anything else out there. The market was not like that anymore. The secret was out. Twilio now had the Flex product, Twilio Flex, so you could build your own interactive call center just by like dragging and dropping widgets and stuff like that, which is a big problem for us because that's sort of like what we were doing. There was now competitors out there who had such a lead and such a momentum that it would have been impossible to catch up to them without incredible investment and a huge, someone frankly better than me to actually run the company. And this wasn't the case. These people were making billions of dollars in revenue. And you know what the other big thing, that gut-wrenching thing was? Their product was really not good. It was a dialer. It could only make and receive calls and send text messages. Couldn't receive text messages, only send them. That's all it did. And they were making billions of dollars off of it. Now we were just like, okay, we don't have the runway anymore to pursue another enterprise deal. We'll go after the same market that they're obviously having a lot of success with. Our product was too complex for smaller customers like that. And in business, it's a lot easier to go from a down market to up market product than it is up market to down market, which means it's much easier to take a very simple product and sell it to enterprises than it is to take a very complex product and sell it to simple customers. Remember, enterprises only have that one extra feature they need, like recording. So all you had to do was tack recording onto that dialer and it was done, technically. But smaller customers get massively overwhelmed when a product is too complex or difficult to use in their eyes. They would say, I don't need call scripts. I don't need all these automation things that it can do. All I want to do is just make and receive phone calls. If you're ever in that sort of situation, the best advice I can give you is just to split the code and make another product. That's probably your only way out of it, or to keep selling to enterprise customers. And it's a difficult decision to make, but we had to go for like sales call centers is all we could go for. That was where our product was sort of like niching into, right? It was complex enough to handle their things, but they was small enough that we could actually pursue those sales cycles within time. I'm just going to skip through to the big crux of the matter, which is that to know when the time isn't right for a new competitor, this is a hard one to accept. The market was now closed. You wouldn't make a search engine today if you knew your competition was Google. Know when the market isn't right for your product or to take that product into that market. The other one is to actually have a passion for what you're doing. I'll be honest, I never really cared about building enterprise phone systems in the first place. I found it as a technical problem I love solving. And that was a big mistake. So we shut it down. The investors gave us our money back. They didn't give us our money back. They let us keep the money. There wasn't much of it left, but they were just like, yeah, it's whatever. It's all good. And I remember saying on my last day out of Melbourne, at their office, you guys are never going to invest in me again, are you? And they said, no. We're more likely to do it next time because you just learned lessons that cost $200,000 to learn. And if you have another business idea, come back to us next time first, because we're going to be peeved if you don't. We've already invested in you. Please come back. That's essentially my talk. Sorry, I think I've run out of time.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
It is afternoon tea time now.
Yep.
Everyone's happy to run over slightly. We can do a few questions. Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah.
sharing for the class. So is there like any key features that you have to show to the business that you got a successful?
So was there any key features as part of the application that you had to show to the venture capitalist to get investment?
I just gave them a live demo. Essentially, I got on a call. I was pretty just like blasé about it. It wasn't really a big deal, I guess, for some reason. I've always been like a bit confident as a tech person. I was just like, yeah, here's the product. So like you guys make a lot of outbound calls to startups, right? And you don't want to reveal your number, right? And you probably want to record those calls for compliance issues. Well, check this out. You can have like a directory. I'm gonna make a phone call to you right now. What's your phone number? They gave me their phone number. And then I was like just calling them. I could show them the script. I could take notes and save it all away. And they was like, yeah, this product's really like polished, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, it's ready to go. It's got customers. And like, oh, how many customers you got? I was like, one. You know, how much money are you making? I was like, oh, like $8,000 a month. And like, oh, cool. Okay, well, that's they will call you back. And I heard later they were just like, it's an automatic yes, because I wasn't just selling some vaporware that didn't exist. It was like, oh, okay, this thing is like actually done. He doesn't need to hire programmers and build something for like 6 months. He's obviously sold it, so it's got some validation. And they just waved us through. They did actually have a policy not to invest in solo tech founders. And apparently they changed that just for me. And I bet you they never do it again. Because the problem they were worried about is that I would fall back into my old habits and just keep building the thing technically instead of actually selling it. And they were dead right? When things are going badly for the business towards the end, I had to skip past this part, sorry. I would essentially just wake up in the morning and just sit down and just keep working on the code because I just couldn't deal with the business anymore. The business had essentially commercially failed at that point. It had destroyed my relationship. Unfortunately, my girlfriend had left me. I'd neglected her. I was too focused on the business, my fault. And I just couldn't associate. Like I could not work on something that had screwed my life up so badly. Losing a business really sucks. There's a lot of people from that cohort who still won't talk to you about their businesses. They'll just say, look, I'll go and get a beer with you, but I'm not going to talk about the company. I'm just not. I can't do it. And then 5 beers in, they're like, fucking God, man. Like, I know. Mine too, bro. Losing a business is hard. But there's absolutely no shame in losing a business. In Australia, there's like a tall poppy syndrome for some stupid reason. When you start a business, your friends sort of like stop talking to you if you have bad friends. I don't know why. Because they're just like jealous that you maybe like, it's like he's got investment. What a prick. And it's like, dude, like, I'm poor. I've got no money. But when you shut it down, they're all like sort of gleefully happy a little bit, like, hey, it didn't work out. This doesn't happen in America, especially. That is like, oh, you tried to start a business? Like, good fucking job. Like, it's really hard to start a business. The same way that you probably learn more in like a month of having a real job than you did at 3 years of university. You will learn more in a week of running a business than you ever will about actually working at one. It's a tough, tough job. Yeah. Sorry, that really went on a little bit.